talk about how to write advantage and disadvantage IELTS essay. Right. So the topic today is this. Nowadays, technology is increasingly being used to monitor what people are saying and doing. For example, through cell phone tracking and security cameras. In many cases, the people being monitored are unaware that this is happening. Do you think the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? So this is the task, and the type of this essay is advantages and disadvantages essay. Right. So, well, first of all, let's get to know some useful pieces of vocabulary that can be used in writing this type of essay. These are the ideas and expressions that are useful. So, for instance, you can mention exponential growth of technology in recent times. Or alternatively, you can say technology has been growing exponentially in recent years. Then there is an idiom. Well, you should be careful with idioms when you write an IELTS essay, but this one is okay. It can be a boon or a bane. So when you're writing about advantages and disadvantages, you can also mention, in my view, the harmful effects outweigh the useful outcomes. So not to repeat advantages and disadvantages, to show that you have rich lexical resource. You can put it differently and say, in my view, or from my point of view, the useful outcomes outweigh the harmful effects. Then instead of security camera, which is in the task, you need to paraphrase that a few times during the essay. You can mention surveillance camera or surveillance system, or CCTV, which stands for closed circuit television. And another word that is not very common is mundane. It's right here. So CCTV cameras are quite mundane in shops, malls, and retail outlets, etc. Then ubiquitous is another word which is quite useful for IELTS essays. When something is widespread, you can say it's ubiquitous. Surveillance cameras have become ubiquitous in many of our cities. Here's another expression, camera footage from a crime site. Instead of mentioning technology, you can say state-of-the-art devices. Another type of well, controlling people's behavior is phone tapping. And all these types of technology are used to monitor public activities, or you can say to monitor the residents' activities. When we're going to talk about the advantages, we can mention that these types of systems that can help us prevent acts of terrorism or terrorist attacks. So, and to track, it's another verb that is useful here, like satellite tracking of mobile phones, or a smartphone with a tracking application installed. So these are some of the expressions. Just a few more. That's page 3, page 4. Okay, so technology provides a valuable, almost indispensable aid to our daily living. You can say it's a tool to monitor social behavior. Technology provides an effective way of preventing and punishing deviant behaviors. And like any other technology, this innovation also brings endless benefits to our everyday life. So these are the expressions. Now let's look at some ideas. Well, as for advantages, some of these advantages are basically the same, but they're expressed differently. So I use different vocabulary and different grammar constructions to express several ideas, some of which might be the same. Technology like security cameras can help to prevent crime. This is probably their main purpose, and this is the main advantage that well, it's up to you, but if you wish, you can use it as the main advantage in your essay too. So they can help to prevent crime from happening. On top of that, it can help the police in preventing and investigating crime activities, and as a result, hopefully, crime rate will be reduced. Here's a useful expression to solve a crime. Then, technology can be used to monitor some sensitive locations with high crime rate, like big shopping malls, trading centers, and so on. Then, if they detect anything suspicious, security may take action to prevent theft. This is a significant deterrent to a would-be thief and helps to prevent crime. Right. Then police can track mobile phone conversations of suspects. Police can monitor the would-be offenders and take effective actions towards them immediately. Camera footage from a crime site may help the police nab a gangster or catch, and the same tape can be used for his conviction. Or it can provide a visual record of any illegal activity. And one more possible advantage that could be mentioned. It helps grown-up children to keep track of the elderly parents to ensure that they are safe. So they can get immediate notification if their parents are in danger, and they can take immediate actions whenever their parents need help or are in danger. Right. So, a few more. It can help the bosses keep an eye on the employees. So hopefully employees will start working better because of this. The monitoring technology can lead to the positive result as long as we can oversee and control it properly. Tracking phone calls and text messages could preventively stop terrorist attacks, uncover instances of state corruption, and help to investigate crimes. And finally, the final advantage, these technologies are essential for ensuring public safety. Okay, there we go. And as for disadvantages, there are not as many, well, at least to my mind. You can say that it's against human rights and freedom, or alternatively, it's against humans' privacy policy. People should have privacy. And this type of tracking can be seen as increasing intrusion in one's life events without consent. Then it is seen as a denial of privacy, which is a fundamental right. Such systems infringe on our personal freedom. Besides, especially in Russia, monitoring data could be misused, for example, sold to another party for business or political purposes. Then law offenders, criminals like hackers, can take advantage of these technologies. People feel uneasy if they have cameras or insecure. As one of my students said, people will feel uneasy when they're being killed rather than when there are cameras around. So it is quite clear that a suicidal bomber isn't going to be deterred by the fact that there is a camera in place. Okay, these are the possible disadvantages, and of course we don't have to mention them all in our essay. Just one or two would be enough. So let's look again at the prompt. Here is the task. Now we already mentioned it in the very beginning. Let's have a look at it again. Nowadays, technology is increasingly being used to monitor what people are saying and doing, for example, through cell phone tracking and security cameras. In many cases, the people being monitored are unaware that this is happening. Do you think the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? So, as you can see, there are three parts to this question prompt. Well, first of all, this is the general statement, which sets the context of the essay. So nowadays technology is increasingly being used, blah, blah, blah. This is the general statement. Then advantages. What are the advantages? And disadvantages. What are the disadvantages? So there are basically three parts to this question. Okay, what I'm offering is a standard 4-paragraph structure, which we're going to write sentence by sentence today. So there's going to be an introduction, paragraph 1, which will be about the main advantage, paragraph 2, which will be about the main disadvantage, and a conclusion. Right, so first of all, let's look at how we can write the introduction. I offer the following 3 steps. First of all, you can rewrite the general statement. So that's the task without the question, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Then you can mention the main advantage and disadvantage. While there is this and that advantage, they also get this and that disadvantage, like this. Or despite there is this advantage, there is also this disadvantage. And then give your opinion, whether you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages or they don't. Uh, all right. So the first thing, the first sentence of the introduction should be taken from the task itself, from the general statement. Here it is. So please try to rewrite it in your own words. So you have 2 minutes for this, and you should rewrite it. So the general statement is this. Nowadays, technology is increasingly being used to monitor what people are saying and doing, for example, through cell phone tracking and security cameras. In many cases, the people being monitored are unaware that this is happening. So now you have 2 minutes. Try to paraphrase these two sentences, this general statement. Maybe you will also need 2 sentences. Then it's okay. So you have 2 minutes. When you're ready, please write your sentence into the chat and I will give you my feedback. Okay, so here's an example from Marina. In our, uh, in our modern life, technology, it's a process, so we should write is developing really fast. Yes, so it's just better to emphasize that this is a process. Use present continuous. Is developing, okay, really fast and brings a lot of benefits in our lives. Okay, I would say brings a lot of benefits to our lives. In my opinion, sounds better, but it still has disadvantages. And then it's better to stop here, to put a full stop, and then there's another. For example, monitoring of what people are doing and saying. Okay, that's fine. So what you can do to improve. So instead of but, you can say however. It just sounds more academic, a bit more academic. Of course, it's not a mistake to say but. If you say however, it's just a bit better. For example, we're going to give examples in the main body paragraph, and you can say, for example, for instance, or you can say, a salient example of this is. Just to show that you know this word salient, яркий пример, a salient example. Again, of course, it's correct. For example, monitoring. Salient example of this is just as a variant. All right, so I'm going to show you my example. Oh, I should make it bigger. So, my example is this. In recent times, there has been exponential growth of technology, which seems to have a tremendous impact on virtually every aspect of our everyday lives, including tracking residents' activities and phone tapping. Oftentimes, such monitoring is done without people even knowing about it. All right. So the next sentence, so you can have a look at it. If you have any questions about the first sentence, feel free to write in the chat. Then the second sentence of the introduction, you should mention the main advantage and the main disadvantage, and try to fit this into one sentence. For instance, we discussed a few advantages and disadvantages in the beginning. For instance, you can say that because of these systems, it's convenient to prevent crime in some ways. And the disadvantage is that it's intrusion into people's privacy, because people lose their privacy in some way, and this can be seen as the main disadvantage. And to put these two ideas to fit these two ideas into one sentence, you can use an expression although or despite. It's not necessary, but if you wish, you can use it. Although, well, I'll put it in a simple way, but you try to write it in an academic way. You have 2 minutes for this. Although there is, although security cameras can help us prevent crimes, they also deprive people of their privacy, like this. I will show you my example just a bit later, in a minute after you finish this. So you have 2 minutes. Please mention the main advantage and disadvantage within one sentence. Hello, Evgenia. We are writing the introduction for the essay about advantages and disadvantages of using technology. So while Arina and hopefully Anna are writing, I will come back a little bit, and here is the topic. So the topic is this. Nowadays, technology is increasingly being used to monitor what people are saying and doing. For example, through cell phone tracking and security cameras. In many cases, the people being monitored are unaware that this is happening. Do you think the advantages of this development outweigh the disadvantages? This is the topic. And we have written the first sentence of the introduction, where we have to rewrite the general statement. And here's my example. You can see Arina's example in the chat. So here's my example. It's in recent times there has been exponential growth of technology, which seems to have a tremendous impact on virtually every aspect of everyday lives, including tracking residents' activities and phone tapping. Oftentimes, such monitoring is done without people even knowing about. Right, and we are working on the second sentence right now. So it's mentioned the main advantage and the main disadvantage. You should fit two ideas into one sentence. One of the variants to do this is by using although or despite. So although there is this advantage, there is this disadvantage, and despite the fact that there is this advantage, there is also this disadvantage. So here's my example. I'm still waiting for your sentences, so you can write them in the chat, and I'll give you my feedback of what you can do to improve. I actually have two examples of these sentences. So the first one is, although technology beyond a shadow of doubt provides a valuable, almost indispensable aid to police and security services, undeniable is the fact that such systems are a serious infringement on people's personal freedom. Or you can say, the foremost benefit of using state-of-the-art devices could be an effective way of preventing and punishing deviant behaviors. However, on the downside, it could cause intrusion in one's life events without consent. So if I have this type of second sentence in the introduction, my first main body paragraph, first supporting paragraph, will be about preventing crimes, and the second one will be about freedom of our private lives. Okay, so if you have any examples that you have written, please share them in the chat. In sentence 3 of the introduction, we should give our opinion. And, well, you can say, which is better? Which do you think is better? The question is, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So which is better, preventing crimes or having free private life? Here are some expressions that might be useful if you write about advantages and disadvantages and what's more important, what's less important. I believe the positive points of, let's say, preventing crimes, for instance, surpass the negative aspects. In my opinion, using security cameras opens new avenues and certainly outweighs the disadvantages. From my point of view, blah, blah, blah is more beneficial, even though it is, and we continue. Okay, Arina, here is a sentence. Although technology can help the police to pretend a crime, prevent, I think you mean prevent. Prevent a crime. Pretend, притворяться. Prevent, предотвращать. Prevent. It's just like this. Prevent a crime, and security cameras provide a visual record of illegal activity. Despite of this, people don't have their own privacy and feel insecure. So you should put it into one sentence, and you can use although or despite. You shouldn't use them together. So although technology can help the police to prevent, by the way, to is not necessary here. If you want, you can use it. After help, it's not necessary. So although technology can help the police prevent crimes in general, and security cameras provide a visual record of illegal activity, people don't have enough of their own privacy and feel insecure. One more thing. It doesn't matter which IELTS, which type of IELTS you're taking, general or academic, your essay should be written in academic style. And you can't use contractions like isn't, don't, doesn't, so you should write do not. Yes. Despite of this, people do not have their own privacy. Otherwise, it will be a mistake in style, a stylistic mistake. All right, so if you have any examples of sentence 3 where you give your opinion whether advantages outweigh the disadvantages or not, you can copy them into the chat. And here is my example. Just a second. Well, it's going to be the last sentence of the introduction. So here it is. While technological advancement can be a boon or a bane, I'm convinced that the useful outcomes of keeping an eye on people's lives outweigh the possible harmful effects. So here is the introduction. Here's the total introduction. In recent times, there has been exponential growth of technology, which seems to have a tremendous impact on virtually every aspect of our everyday lives, including tracking residents' activities and phone tapping. Oftentimes, such monitoring is done without people even knowing about it. Although technology, beyond the shadow of doubt, provides a valuable, almost indispensable aid to police and security services, undeniable is the fact that such systems are a serious infringement on people's personal freedom. While technological advancement can be a boon or a bane, I am convinced that the useful outcomes of keeping an eye on people's lives, there's a mistake, sorry, keeping an eye on people's lives outweigh the possible harmful effects. Okay, so here's the introduction. If there are any questions about the introduction, feel free to write your questions in the chat. And we're coming to the main body paragraph. How to write paragraph 1. Well, if you remember, well, for those who were at our first webinar on writing, the introductory, I told you about the evaluation criteria for task achievement, for example, where you need to expand your ideas and support your ideas to achieve band 7 or 8 in your writing. So here we're going to discuss the main advantage. And first we outline the main advantage. This is the first sentence. Then we should give reasons, so we should expand this example, and then this advantage, and then we well, try to support it with examples. The easiest ways to support your idea is to provide some examples, and then it's not necessary, but there is a wrap-up sentence or a mini conclusion where you can restate the main advantage. So you sum up your paragraph. And you do it like this. So, to outline the main advantage, you should elaborate on your introductory idea, depending on what it was. For example, Irina wrote that although technology can help police to prevent a crime, and cameras provide a visual record of illegal activity. So you can say that one argument to put forward in favor of using security cameras is that such types of technology can be used to assist in preventing crimes. You can repeat this idea. Here are some expressions that can be used here. One argument to put forward in favor of something is something. One of the main advantages, benefits, positive features, pluses of something is this and that. The crucial beneficial factor of something is that it provides something else. The main point, which can be claimed as an advantage of using security cameras, surveillance cameras, CCTV cameras, is this and that. So this is the first sentence. If you have your examples, feel free to write them in the chat, and I will give you commentaries on how to improve them if there is room for improvement. So here is my example. I outlined the main advantage. The crucial beneficial factor of using innovative technology such as closed-circuit television is that it can help prevent, investigate, and punish deviant behavior. So if you see, I tried to avoid the word crime in sensitive locations with high crime rate. Okay, so here is my example. The next thing I have to do is to give reasons for the main advantage of using technology, why it can prevent crimes from happening. You can, if you can also put your sentences in the chat, then we'll discuss them. So here's my example. That is the main reason why surveillance systems have become quite mundane in shopping malls, trading centers, and retail outlets. You can see I developed on them. And the next one is I give an example. So I prefer to give an example in the main body paragraph, not in the introduction. For example, for instance, a good example of this is, or a salient example of this is, okay, right, and here's how I do this. For instance, if security officers detect anything suspicious, they can take effective measures immediately. And what you do after this, you restate the main advantage. You make a mini conclusion, and good words for this are to sum up, in conclusion, or thus, just to make a short conclusion. Right, here's my example. To sum up, using such devices is essential for ensuring public safety, since they are a significant deterrent to would-be law offenders. Here's the whole paragraph one. The crucial beneficial factor of using innovative technology such as closed-circuit television is that it can help prevent, investigate, and punish deviant behaviors in sensitive locations with high crime rate. This is the main reason why surveillance systems have become quite mundane in shopping malls, trading centers, and retail outlets. For instance, if security officers detect anything suspicious, they can take effective measures immediately. To sum up, using such devices is essential for ensuring public safety, since they are a significant deterrent to would-be law offenders. So there are 4 sentences. And paragraph 2, basically it's the same. So the same structure, main disadvantage, paragraph 2, you outline the main disadvantage, then you give reasons, give examples, and in a conclusion by restating the main disadvantage. All right, so here's how I did it. Turning to the other side of the argument, I'm sure most people would agree that there are some drawbacks of keeping people under observation too. I suppose the most unfavorable weak point might be that since security cameras and other types of surveillance have become ubiquitous in many parts of the world, it can be seen as increasing intrusion in residents' private lives. In fact, it is considered by many to be a denial of their privacy, which is a fundamental right of every individual. A salient example in this respect is the quite frequent misuse of the collected data, which can be easily sold to another party for business, political, or other purposes. Okay, and the last thing is the conclusion. So, taking into consideration all the facts mentioned above, this is an expression for a final conclusion, one can say beyond any doubt that monitoring technologies is a tool which can lead to positive results as long as we can oversee and control it properly. Like any other automation, such equipment also brings endless benefits to our everyday life. All right. So if there are any questions, please let me know in the chat. Also, I wanted to tell you that next Sunday, so actually this Sunday, October the 21st, we're going to have a webinar. It will be a speaking class. So if you want to develop your speaking skills, then feel free to join this. But if you want to take part by speaking, not just by watching or observing, you need to have headphones, because when there is more than one person speaking, there should be you need headphones or headset, otherwise there will be echo. So right, and we're going to practice part 2, so there will be monologues. part 2, you'll have to speak for 2 minutes. These are the topics we're going to cover. There's going to be activity your friend has done but you haven't, clothes for a special occasion, a plant in your country, a comic actor, losing something important, and a website. These are real topics that are used in IELTS now from September to December 2018. So if you're planning to take IELTS within this period, these are the topics that are in use right now. So if there are any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat.